To say that someone has daddy issues is a somewhat rude and humiliating way of alluding to a very understandable longing for a father who is strong and wise, who is judicious, kind, perhaps at points tough, but always fair, and ultimately always on our side. It would be so understandable if we were to feel we wanted someone like this in our lives, especially at moments of confusion and chaos. The longing for a strong father has been a recurring theme throughout history. Most religions have conceived of their central divinities as male parents. In ancient Greece, Zeus was described as the father of men and gods. In Christianity, God was the heavenly father. In Germanic mythology, Odin was the All-Father, the father of all other gods. The longing has been no less present in secular culture. In the US, the individuals who led the War of Independence and drew up the Constitution came to be known as the Founding Fathers. Garibaldi, the dignified and authoritative man who fought for the unification of Italy in the 19th century, earned himself the title of the Father of the Fatherland. In early childhood, we are all immensely weak and in need of protection. We can't understand the world. We're so fragile, we could be killed by a moderately sized dog. So much feels mysterious and outside of our control. A hunger for a daddy is, in the circumstances, wholly natural. A grown man inevitably and rightly seems immensely impressive to a small child. They appear to know everything: the capital of New Zealand, how to drive a car, how to say a few words in a foreign language, how to peel an avocado. They go to bed mysteriously late. They're up before you. In the swimming pool, you can put your arms around their neck and rest on their back. They once kicked a football so high you nearly couldn't see it. It's beyond astonishing when one is 4. The paradox of daddy issues is that those who have them are almost always people who didn't have very good fathers when they were small. Perhaps one's father was strong but ultimately cruel, bullying, or disinterested. Perhaps he was more concerned with another sibling or with his work. Perhaps he wasn't around much, left the house after a divorce, or died young. The adult longing for a father is not the result of having had a good father in childhood. It's a consequence of abandonment. The longing can incline us to some tricky patterns of behavior. However mature and skeptical we may be in most areas, in relation to the idea of male protection, we remain a little like the young child we once were and haven't been allowed to mature away from. We secretly yearn for a man to step in and fulfill an unquenched fantasy role. They'll take charge, they'll make the big decisions, they'll be tough and certain to make our problems go away. They'll make sure the money side of things is sorted. They'll get angry and aggressive with anyone who hurts us. They'll be proud of us and love us as we are. We'll be looking out for daddies in friendships, at work, and, not least, in politics. The danger is that these daddies may, in the end, hugely damage our trust, for it isn't in anyone's power to assuage the sort of longings we bring to bear on them. They may know very well what we want and naively or cynically promise to provide it for us, but gradually, too late, we stand to realize that they had 1,000 flaws, as we all do. We may realize that they're bullying rather than noble, that our enemies haven't gone away, that they couldn't help us, that there isn't in fact enough money in the world to do what they promised, and that, in fact, they didn't really love us at all. The fantasy daddy figure of adulthood isn't in fact a good father, for one big reason. Truly good humans know they aren't that powerful and are happy to admit to the fact cleanly and honestly, just as soon as we're ready to take the news, which is normally when we're around 12 years old and conscious of new powers and capacities. A good father doesn't, beyond that age, pretend to be all-powerful. They confess they can't solve all our problems and can't magically save us from a myriad of dangers, no matter how much they wish they could. The good daddy disappoints us just as soon as we're strong enough to bear reality. Out of love, they deflate the idea that there could ever be a perfect, ideal daddy. They try as best they can to help us grow up. If we encounter someone who has daddy issues, the temptation is to get frustrated, to tell them to mature, to mock them, and in particular, to poke fun at the particular daddy figure they might have identified. this isn't either a very wise or ultimately a very kind strategy. It simply tends to entrench their devotion because whenever we're attacked, we of course feel ever more intensely than ever the need for the protection of an idealized father. What we really need to help us out of our daddy issues is something more like the actions of a genuinely good father. Someone who acknowledges our suffering and our fears, who deeply wants what's best for us and isn't reluctant to say so, but who at the same time, out of love, wants to help us to come to terms with a messy and essentially disappointing world. A man who, out of love, would encourage us to be independent and specifically not to fantasize that anyone, however outwardly imposing, can ever do the impossible. Good daddies allow us to bear the truth that there are, in the end, no daddies. We love bringing you these films. If you want to help us to keep bringing you thoughtful content, please consider supporting us by visiting our shop at the link on your screen now.